Chapter 891. It's just that at this moment, Zhao Chuang's face can no longer be seen with that exaggerated appearance. Instead, his face is full of vicissitudes and thinness. The whole person seems to be a dozen years old. It had only been more than a month, and David was surprised by Zhao Chuang's changes. "Brother Chen, Brother Chen." Seeing David, Zhao Chuang threw himself on it, and even burst into tears. "Zhao Chuang, don't cry, what happened?" David frowned. "Brother Chen, my dad he." Zhao Chuang sobbed and pointed to the hall in the villa. David didn't wait for Zhao Chuang to finish speaking, his figure flashed, and he entered the villa directly. At this moment, in the hall of the villa, there are white cloths hanging all around, everyone is wearing white filial piety clothes, and many people are crying. David looked towards the center of the hall, where a person was lying, covered with a yellow cloth. David stepped forward in a hurry and lifted the yellow cloth at once. "Who are you?" Seeing that someone rushed into the hall and lifted the yellow cloth covering Zhao Liguo's body, the disciples of the villa who were filial piety were furious, and they were about to take action against David. "All stop!" At this time, Zhao Chuang also followed and shouted at everyone in the villa. Seeing Zhao Chuang speak, the disciples of the villa then stopped and looked at David blankly. David looked at Zhao Liguo and saw that Zhao Liguo was pale and motionless, and there was blood on the corner of his mouth. David slowly put his hand on Zhao Liguo's wrist, and a spiritual power was input into Zhao Liguo's body. At the same time, David also directly enveloped Zhao Liguo's body with his own consciousness. David is going to take a two-pronged approach to see if Zhao Liguo can still be saved. Soon, David found out that there was still a faint aura in Zhao Liguo's body, and even Zhao Liguo's heart was still beating slightly, but this heart vein was protected. "Can't find out." Seeing that Zhao Liguo was still saved, a smile appeared on David's face, and he breathed a sigh of relief. "Zhao Chuang, what happened to your father?" David looked at Zhao Chuang and asked. "Brother Chen," Zhao Chuang followed David to speak. It turned out that after the news that David devoured Longjing spread, many people began to find David's whereabouts, but David seemed to have evaporated from the world. The Pilaman, Swan Yuan's family and even Qin's family are constantly looking for trouble in Wuying Mountain Villa. They think that Zhao Liguo hid David and wants to swallow Longjing for himself. In the end, the three joined forces to force Zhao Liguo to reveal David's whereabouts, but Zhao Liguo didn't say anything at all, even if he wanted to, Zhao Liguo didn't know. Seeing that Zhao Liguo was stubborn and refused to speak, the three families attacked Wuying Villa together, causing a lot of casualties, and Zhao Liguo was outnumbered and severely injured. After a few days, he passed away. Pilaman, Swan Yuan's family, Qin's family. David's eyes were slightly condensed, and murderous intent filled his eyes. "Brother Chen, my dad, is my dad. Zhao Zhuangzu is still saved. You don't want to touch him these few days. You can do whatever you want. Don't let outsiders know that your father is not dead," David warned Zhao Chuang. David was afraid that the three families knew that Zhao Liguo was not dead, and they were coming to ask for trouble. How could they be able to resist the people of Wuying Mountain Villa alone? "Really? Is my dad really not dead?" Zhao Chuang's face was full of excitement. "I'm going to Yaishan Valley now, you have to deal with the matter of Wuying Villa." David patted Zhao Chuang on the shoulder. "Brother Chen, don't worry, I will." Zhao Chuang nodded firmly, and David could see that this guy had grown a lot in just 1 month. Leaving from Shadowless Villa, David didn't dare to delay for half a minute. Chapter 892. He knew that Zhao Liguo couldn't wait too long. If Zhao Liguo had not been strong from the beginning and used his strength to protect his heart, he would have been a corpse by now. David now has to rush to Yaishan Valley as soon as possible to practice Hushan Pill, so that Zhao Liguo can come back to life. As for the black jade intermittent paste that Lin Tianhu and Chifeng need, they can wait to refine it. After all, the two of them are not life-threatening. Before he knew it, David had already walked into a forest, and after passing through this place, he could enter the entrance of Yaishin Valley. But just as David continued to walk forward, he suddenly froze, and then his eyes looked around. It took me so long to be discovered, and I'm considered a master of martial arts. Don't you feel ashamed to hide like a rat? David's face turned cold and he said coldly. It's good to have eaten Long Jing, the spirit detection is really good, even if we hide our breath, you are still aware of it. The voice fell, and the 5 figures burst out quickly. These 5 people were all in the realm of Wuzong, and they were surrounded by David. David glanced at them and knew who these people were, because Xian Yuanrong, who had been humiliated by him, was among them. David, didn't expect us to meet so soon, right? As I said, I won't let you go. Xuan Yuanrong looked at David coldly, his eyes full of anger. It seems that the blow and humiliation to Xian Yuanrong yesterday made this guy always bear a grudge. David's eyes narrowed slightly. Stop talking nonsense, just take revenge, I don't have time to talk to you. David has no time to waste with them here. When I was young, I had such a daring spirit. I didn't have 5 martial sects, but I was not afraid at all. It really was a hero who came out as a teenager. At this time, a middle-aged man who looked similar to Xian Yuanrong and had a more stern face spoke up. Big brother, it was this kid who cut off Xiao Kai's arm. Today we are going to torture him and avenge Xiao Kai. Xian Yuanrong said to the middle-aged man. Only then did David know that this person turned out to be Xian Yuanyan, the head of the Xian Yuan family, which made David's heart a little nervous. He didn't expect Xian Yuanyan to go out in person. It seemed that the Xian Yuan family really attached great importance to him. It's just an arm, it's not a big deal. As the saying goes, it's better to be an enemy than a relationship. If you can spit out Long Jing and give it to me, I promise that the Xian Yuan family will write off your grievances and never trouble you. Xuan Yuanyan wanted Long Jing, but he didn't care about his son's arm at all. David glanced around slowly. He was looking for an opportunity to escape. Facing Xuan Yuanyan and several Wuzong masters, David was not sure that he could win, not to mention that he did not have time to fight them here. You don't have to think about escaping. Today you can't fly with your wings on, so you should hand over Long Jing obediently, so as not to suffer from flesh and blood. Xuan Yuanyan saw David's thoughts long ago, and smiled lightly. As the head of the Xian Yuan clan, don't you feel embarrassed for the Xian Yuan clan when the 5 martial sects dealt with one of my great masters? If you have the ability, we will go head to head. David sneered at Xuan Yuanyan. Ha ha ha, shame? What's there to be ashamed of? Even if I kill you now, who will see it, who will know? You don't have to use aggressive tactics against me. Although you are in the realm of a great master, but the strength has already surpassed Wuzong, my second brother can't make a move in your hands, you should pretend to be pitiful. Xian Yuanyan was not fooled by David at all. It seemed that if David didn't hand over Long Jing, they would start working together. Chapter 893. David saw that Xuan Yuanyan was not fooled at all, and knew that he had to work hard, so he looked at Xuan Yuanyan coldly, and the aura on his body began to rise. Among these people, only Xuan Yuanyan threatened him the most. Looking at David's rising aura, Xian Yuanyan smiled and said, "Do you still have the courage to fight? Let me tell you, even if you do everything in vain, your only way out is to hand over Long Jing." David didn't speak, but suddenly a golden light appeared on his body, and the terrifying aura instantly swept away towards Xuan Yuanyan. David's body also shot towards Xuan Yuanyan in an instant. He needed a surprise attack on Xian Yuanyan, and it would be best if he could conquer the enemy in one move. Xuan Yuanyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and the corners of his mouth twitched. It seemed that he had long expected that David would attack him. I saw Xuan Yuanyan's palm poking out, and a golden light suddenly condensed in front of them. This light was like a wall, protecting Xuan Yuanyan in front of him. I heard that you have an indestructible golden body, and I happen to know a little bit about it. I will play with you today. Come on. Xuan Yuanyan's body even began to emit bursts of golden light. David looked a little surprised when he saw this scene, but this is the end of the matter. David could not stop, unless he really handed over Longjing, but David would not do it. Let's not say that Longjing has something to him. How important, just this Longjing is the one that Xiru bought with his life, he will not give Longjing to anyone. Bang! David's punch smashed hard in front of Xuan Yuanyan, and after a burst of rays of light and a loud bang, the golden shield in front of Xuan Yuanyan shattered directly, turning into little golden light and dissipating. Xuan Yuanyan was slightly different, and said in a stunned manner, "No wonder the second brother can't take a single move in your hands, just this punch, I'm afraid it is stronger than the third rank Wuzong, it seems that many people are confused by your apparent strength now. Stop talking nonsense." David failed in a single blow, and snorted again, followed by another punch. This time, he raised his spiritual power to the extreme. Facing the situation in front of him, David did not dare to be careless. Xuan Yuanyan's eyes narrowed, but instead of dodging, the golden light on his body suddenly appeared. At this moment, Xuan Yuanyan was like a warrior wearing golden armor. Clang! A loud metal collision sounded, David's face changed slightly, and his figure suddenly stepped back. The punch just now, not only did not hurt Xuan Yuanyan, but David's own arm was slightly numb. How can it be? David's face was full of doubts. He had to know that his punch could shatter even a hard copper wall, but when it hit Xuan Yuanyan, the opponent was unscathed. Although your strength is good, you are still young after all. I think I have been cultivating for decades. If you are no match for you, a hairy boy, you will be laughed at by the world. I advise you not to bother and hand over Longjing obediently. I spare your life. Xuan Yuanyan sneered. Wishful thinking. After David finished speaking, he slowly raised his right hand again, and the dragon-slaying sword appeared in David's hand in an instant. There was blood flowing on the body of the dragon-slaying sword, and soon the blood began to burn. There is still a whole card. Xuan Yuanyan was stunned for a moment, and then the breath on his body began to soar, and his face became solemn. At the same time, when Xuan Yuanyan and the others saw David take out the dragon-slaying sword, they all took out a short sword several inches long from their waists, but then the short sword became 10 feet long in the hands of these 4 people. Immediately after, the 4 people inserted the long swords in their hands into 4 directions, and chanted words in their mouths. Soon, bright rays of light flashed. These rays of light joined together, directly surrounding David and Xuan Yuanyan, as if forming a confinement. Space. Chapter 894. Since your kid is obsessed and refuses to hand over Longjing, then he can only kill you and take out Longjing from your body. Xuan Yuanyan's eyes flashed with killing intent. In my Xuan Yuan family's formation, no one can escape, but I am invincible in this formation. This formation can give me a steady stream of energy. This formation was set up by Xuan Yuanrong and the others, so Xuan Yuanyan could get the energy from Xuan Yuanrong and the others when he was in the formation. Wuzongdu. Really? Then I'll try your Xuan Yuan family's formation. David's body glowed with golden light, and the dragon-slaying sword in his hand was even more flaming. Go to H3LL. David slashed towards Xuan Yuanyan with his sword. Now only the 2 of them are in the formation, so David must find a way to take advantage of the present opportunity to kill or seriously injure Xuan Yuanyan. David is difficult to parry. Xuan Yuanyan's expression changed. He did not expect that David would be so powerful in this formation. Boy, I really underestimate you. Xuan Yuanyan snorted coldly, and then his body turned into a golden light, only heading towards David. At this moment, Xuan Yuanyan regarded his body as a weapon, and he had to forcefully follow the dragon-slaying sword in David's hand. David didn't dare to be careless, and exerted his spiritual power to the extreme, and the blood in his body boiled. Bang bang bang! There was an incessant sound, and the two people collided continuously in the formation. It was like two golden rays of light that were constantly intertwined, and Swan Yuanrong and the others outside could not see the silhouette of the two at all. The huge collision energy was imprisoned in the formation and could not spread out, and David and Swan Yuanyan were under increasing pressure in the formation, and the space in the whole formation seemed to be distorted. Looking from the outside now, the entire formation seems to be full of water, constantly shaking and tossing. Swan Yuanrong's family watched the changes in the formation in shock. None of them knew what was going on inside, and none of them felt the danger approaching. Clang! With another touch, David's dragon-slaying sword slashed hard on Xian Yuanyan's fist. The bodies of the two people separated in an instant, and the energy generated by the touch just now was gathered in the formation again. David's hand holding the dragon-slaying sword was trembling slightly, and the tiger's mouth was dripping with blood. At this moment, the pressure in the formation has reached the extreme, and David has to grow his mouth before he can breathe. And Swan Yuanyan's face became more and more ugly, but the killing intent in his eyes was stronger. David's strength is beyond his imagination. If he doesn't kill David now, in time, he will not be David's opponent at all. You must know that David swallowed Longjing and has Longjing to assist him in his cultivation. Click, click. With a burst of subtle sounds that were not easily detectable, David's consciousness instantly spread throughout the formation. At this time, the light curtain on the four walls of the formation began to have subtle cracks. Aware that this formation was approaching its limit, David's mouth curled into a smile, and he thought of a way to escape. Boy, you are still laughing when you are about to die, take your life. Swan Yuanyan roared angrily, and the terrifying aura charged towards David again. David gritted his teeth and raised his dragon-slaying sword to resist. Boom! Another heavy blow, David's body quickly retreated, and his feet made two deep marks on the ground. The internal organs in David's body began to tumble continuously. The dragon-slaying sword had already been integrated with David. Now this punch hits the dragon-slaying sword and it is no different from hitting David. Chapter 895. Immediately afterwards, the throat was sweet, and a mouthful of blood spit out from David's mouth, and his face became extremely ugly. The golden light on David's body also began to dim, and the rising flame of the dragon-slaying sword gradually extinguished. Ha ha ha! Xian Yuanyan couldn't help laughing. David, you still hand over Longjing obediently, with your current strength, you are not my opponent at all, my indestructible golden body is even stronger than yours, you can't fight it. Me, if you keep fighting like this, you will only be consumed to death. David looked at the proud Swan Yuanyan, his face became more and more solemn. Swan Yuanyan was right, he was not his opponent at all. If this fight goes on, David will lose sooner or later. However, at this moment, the cracks in the light curtain of the formation are getting bigger and bigger, and the energy accumulated in the formation has reached the highest point. Hold on, hold on. David gritted his teeth secretly, put away the dragon-slaying sword, and released all the spiritual power in his danshan. The golden light on David's body began to flicker again, and the muscles all over his body seemed to turn into gold. You still don't give up. The corner of Swan Yuanyan's mouth twitched, and then the breath in his body began to soar, and then he rushed towards David. David did not dare to neglect, and immediately greeted him with a fist. Boom! The loud noise spread, and the terrifying aura in Xian Yuanyan's body shook. David's body was quickly knocked out, and the whole person fell to the ground. At this time, David's face was extremely pale, like a dead person. Hand over Longjing, I don't need to kill you. Swan Yuanyan walked towards David step by step. David ignored Swan Yuanyan, but covered all his divine consciousness on the formation. Seeing this, David muttered words in his mouth, as if he was urging some kind of magic, and then his whole body began to bulge slowly, becoming like a balloon. Seeing David's appearance, Xian Yuanyan was stunned for a moment, then he laughed and said, "Are you trying to blow yourself up?" But Xuan Yuanyan's voice just fell, and then a scorching sun-like light shone forth, followed by a terrifying wave of turbulent air, and everyone felt a dangerous aura. Rumbling. The earth began to tremble, and the formation finally couldn't bear the huge energy pressure and exploded directly. Xian Yuanyan's eyes froze, but before he could make any movement, he was knocked out by a huge force. Xian Yuanrong and the others outside the formation also felt a hurricane swept across them instantly, even if they were all swept away now. It is the realm of Wuzong, which can be blown into the air like a piece of paper. David didn't get much better either. Although he took precautions, he was still directly blown out by the air waves hundreds of meters away. The huge inertia caused David's body to not only roll over, but finally hit a big tree heavily. Stopped. But fortunately, David swelled his body into a ball, and the physical damage was not much, and he was able to take advantage of the situation to roll out a long distance. Ignoring the pain on his body, David got up and went desperately towards Yaishan Valley. As for Xuan Yuanyan and the others, they were also overturned by the air waves, and their clothes were tattered and in a state of embarrassment. Getting up from the ground, Xian Yuanyan glanced around and found that David was no longer there. "Where's David?" Xian Yuanyan shouted angrily. "Brother, we didn't see." Xuan Yuanrong said embarrassedly. They were also thrown out just now, and they didn't notice David at all, and now there is no trace of David. "Damn, let this kid run away." Xian Yuanyan took a deep breath, his face full of anger. "Brother, what should we do?" Xian Yuanrong asked. "What else can I do? Of course I will go back, but this son must not stay, it will definitely become a big problem in the future." Xian Yuanyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and his body was full of murderous aura. He knew that if David was given time, David's strength would surpass him sooner or later, and then their Xian Yuan family would be out of luck. Chapter 896. At this time, David, full of scars, galloped towards the Medicine God Valley. If Xuan Yuanyan was alone, David wouldn't be so embarrassed. David's feet condensed spiritual power, and it took only half a day to arrive at Yaishan Valley. The disciples of Taniguchi saw David's embarrassed appearance, and hurriedly stepped forward to support him, and some people rushed to report to Su Chongsheng. Soon, Su Chongsheng hurried over with several elders, and Xiaolan was among them. When they saw David's wounded appearance, they were all shocked. "David, what's wrong with you?" Xiaolan stepped forward and asked with a distressed face. "It's a long story, I'll tell you later." After David finished speaking, he looked at Su Chongsheng. "Elder Su, you are now preparing the medicinal materials you need for Huishan Pill. I want to refine Huishan Pill." "Gu Master, you are now. Come on, don't worry about me, I'll be fine after a while by myself." David urged Su Chongsheng. Su Chongsheng went to prepare the medicinal materials, while David was helped by Xiaolan into Yaishan Valley. In the room, David adjusted his health and slowly recovered from his injuries. The heart concentration art was running rapidly, desperately absorbing the surrounding aura, and even some of the aura in Longjing that had just recovered was absorbed in the past. However, these auras are not enough to restore David to his peak state. With his current strength, David can't practice the heaven returning pill. Slowly opening his eyes, he found that it was already dark outside, and David could no longer see his injuries, but his body was still a little weak and he had not fully recovered. David walked to the sect of medicine and found that there was no one in it. It was estimated that he had gone to prepare the medicinal materials, and the Shenengding stood quietly in the center of the hall. Gently stroking the Shenengding, David probed a wisp of divine consciousness into the Shenengding. Soon, David felt a simple and fresh breath, which made David very comfortable. This kind of aura that seems to be aura but not aura actually made David's weak body recover quickly. Is there any mystery in this cauldron? David felt the breath and was very surprised. Since David got the Sheneng Ding, he has never carefully explored it, but he has only used this Sheneng Ding to refine several medicinal pills. Looking at the Sheneng Ding in front of him, David suddenly jumped directly into the ding. David saw in the tripod that there was a line of small characters on the inner wall. The male tiger roars in the mountains, the female dragon sings on the seabed. Yuryui is sprayed from the door, and the Kenhu vomits gold and silver. The top string is 8 taels of gold, and the bottom string is half a caddy of water. After David finished reading, just when he was thinking about what it meant, a dazzling light instantly emitted from the copper tripod, and a breath instantly wrapped David in it, causing David to faint. LOL. David's body seemed to be slashed by a sharp weapon, but he didn't feel it at all. At this moment, David seemed to be in the sea of that kind of breath, his body thirsty absorbing the surrounding breath. Curled up, David showed a satisfied smile on his face. At this time, he seemed to be in a dream, but he found that the dream was so real. But then, the sea in front of him disappeared, replaced by a raging sea of fire. The heat of the flame made David feel unbearable pain all over his body. He desperately wanted to escape, but found that he couldn't escape at all. He wanted to shout, but couldn't make a sound. The hot flames kept burning David, the skin on David began to fall off layer by layer, and then grew layer by layer. In the end, the intense pain caused David to lose consciousness. I don't know how long it took, David was woken up by a soft shout. David, David, why did you sleep here? Xiaolan looked at David, who was curled up in the Sheneng Ding, and kept shouting. Chapter 897. David slowly opened his eyes and found that Xiaolan was looking at him in surprise. David got up and jumped out of the cauldron. He saw that besides Xiaolan, Su Chongsheng and several elders were also there. They prepared the medicinal materials and wanted to call David, but found that David was not in the room. Several people came to the main hall and found that David was actually sleeping in the Sheneng Ding. Why did you sleep here? Xiaolan asked strangely again. I don't know either. David frowned slightly, he only remembered that he jumped into the tripod, and it was like a dream behind him. You don't know it yourself. Xiaolan was even more puzzled. David took a deep breath and closed his eyes to examine his body. He was surprised to find that the muscles and bones in his body were also shining with golden light, and the spiritual energy in his danshan was even more like a sea. David looked at the Sheneng Ding in front of him, and with a wave of his palm, a light blue flame began to rise in the Sheneng Ding. The flame moved with David's thoughts, sometimes bigger and sometimes smaller. Elder Su, are you ready to prepare the medicinal materials? David asked Su Chongsheng. Gu Master, everything is ready. Su Chongsheng replied hurriedly. Okay, you can put the herbs in. After David finished speaking, his mind moved, and the flames in Sheneng Ding became vigorous. Su Chongsheng and several elders hurriedly put the medicinal materials into the cauldron. You must know that these are very precious medicinal materials for refining Huishan pill. If they are taken outside, they are all priceless treasures. To collect so many precious medicinal materials. With the input of medicinal materials, the spiritual energy emitted by those precious medicinal materials was all shrouded in the Sheneng cauldron. A few hours later, a Huishan pill appeared in Sheneng Ding, and the light blue flame gradually went out. Refining a heaven-returning pill, in addition to the need for these precious medicinal materials, also consumes a huge amount of spiritual power for the alchemist. But after David finished refining Huishan pill, his body was not in a state of fatigue, and his danshan was still full of spiritual energy. Could it be that it wasn't a dream just now? David showed joy on his face. What are you mumbling about? Xiaolan saw that David seemed to be a little abnormal, and she muttered to herself, so she asked. This Sheneng Ding is really a good thing. It can not only make alchemy, but also cure diseases and strengthen the body. David said happily. Gu Master, this Sheneng cauldron is an ancient thing. I don't know how many powerful people have been refining alchemy in this Sheneng cauldron, and how many rare and exotic grasses have been refined in this Sheneng cauldron. For so many years, this Sheneng cauldron has been refined. It must have absorbed a lot of breath. After Su Chongsheng said this, David suddenly realized that it really wasn't a dream, but that he triggered the formation in the Sheneng Ding, so that he could absorb the breath stored in the Sheneng Ding, and at the same time forged it with the holy fire in the Ding body. In this way, as long as the Sheneng cauldron is used continuously to make alchemy, the Sheneng cauldron can continuously store the breath, and then it can be used for self-cultivation. Ha ha ha, good stuff, really good stuff. David laughed heartily and was very excited. With his own Longjing can generate spiritual energy and store it in it every day for his own cultivation. Now this Sheneng Ding can also help himself in his cultivation. For David, this is simply a help in the snow. Seeing David's sudden burst of laughter, Xiaolan looked at him with strange eyes, thinking that David was crazy. At this moment, only David himself knows how important this secret of Sheneng Ding is to him. If David is strong enough, he will not be so embarrassed today. Facing a Xian Yuan family, David is still like this, but what if he faces the Long family? What did David rely on to go to the Long family to take revenge and rescue his mother? Chapter 898. After being excited for a while, David slowly calmed down. Putting the Huishan pills away, David said to Su Chongsheng, "Elder Su, take a few elders to work hard at night and refine dozens of body training pills. I will take them away tomorrow morning." David intends to bring back the body training pills for the members of the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto, so that the strength of these players can be improved as quickly as possible. Don't worry, the owner of the valley, we will alchemy all night, and we will definitely complete the task. Su Chongsheng nodded. David left the hall and was about to go back to the room to rest, but Xiaolan kept following David. Although she was only separated from David for 2 days, Xiaolan found that she could not live without David, thinking of him all the time. "It's so late, what are you doing with me if you don't go to bed?" When David saw Xiaolan following him, he was apprehensive. This girl is too open, if David doesn't pay attention, her innocence will be taken away by Xiaolan. In that case, he would be a little too sorry for Sonia. "Your injury isn't very good yet, I want to take care of you," Xiaolan said. "Okay, my injury is healed, you don't need to take care of me." David waved his hand quickly and jumped a few times, indicating that he was healed. "I said it's not good, you are a big man, why is your mother-in-law?" Xiaolan even pushed David directly into the room, and then locked the door. "What are you going to do?" David was taken aback. "I'm going to take care of you here tonight and sleep with you," Xiaolan said bluntly. "No, it's not good for a single man and a widow to be together," David shook his head firmly. "I'm not afraid of bad influence," Xiaolan said. "But I'm afraid, I'm still an innocent young man, if... David didn't know what to say next. "Don't worry, even if I sleep in the same room with you, I won't do anything to you. I really treat me like those 5 Lutty women. If you don't agree, I will never touch you." Xiaolan glanced at David. Xiaolan's words sounded so awkward in David's ears. Shouldn't this be what a man said to a woman? Today is the opposite, Xiaolan has become the leader. David looked at Xiaolan helplessly, and finally could only sleep with her clothes. But this night, Xiaolan did not touch David, she just kissed David secretly. David knew it for a long time, but in order to avoid embarrassment, David kept pretending to sleep. As long as Xiaolan didn't act too outrageous, that's it. Early the next morning, Su Chongsheng delivered the prepared body training pills very early. Seeing David and Xiaolan come out of a room, Su Chongsheng smiled lightly. "Guzu, the body training pill is ready. In addition, I have a solid essence pill here. I think it will definitely help the Gujing pill. As long as the Gujing eats this Gujing pill, even if the battle is 300 rounds, it will be easy. Response. Su Chongsheng gave David a meaningful wink. David was stunned for a moment, and then he understood what Su Chongsheng was talking about. He even named this medicinal pill Gujingdan. He really dared to name it. Elder Su, things are not what you think. I didn't do anything with Xiaolan, and I can't use your Gujing pill. You should keep it for yourself. David explained awkwardly. Elder Su, you really look down on David. He is a handsome young man in his 20s. How could he possibly use that kind of thing? You don't know how fierce he is at night. Xiaolan smiled contentedly. I understand, I understand. Su Chongsheng smiled and put away the Gujing pill. What are you talking about? David roared at Xiaolan, then looked at Su Chongsheng and said, Elder Su, don't listen to her nonsense, we really didn't do anything. Chapter 899. I believe in the owner of the valley. Su Chongsheng kept saying that he believed in David, but the eyes that looked at David were clearly not believing. David was helpless and stopped explaining. He didn't want to waste too much time on this issue. Zhao Liguo was still waiting for Hua Shandan to save his life, and David had to rush back as soon as possible. Elder Su, Ye Shengu will take your trouble, I have to hurry back. David said to Su Chongsheng. I'll go with you. Xiaolan said immediately. No, don't you see how dangerous my journey is? If you follow me, you will lose your life. David immediately refused. Even if you die, I will follow you, unless you kill me. Xiaolan said firmly. It can be seen that Xiaolan is careful this time. Seeing Xiaolan like that, David could only sigh, follow me, if you are in danger, run away as soon as possible, leave me alone, do you hear me? You look at me too weak, anyway, I'm also a great master, and I also have charm. Xiaolan said with dissatisfaction. David didn't say anything, and Xiaolan didn't know yet. When the Grand Master arrived in the capital, he was no bullshit, and Xiaolan's charm technique was useless if he really wanted to meet the firm-willed Wu Zong. Leaving from Yaishan Valley, David and Xiaolan hurried towards Wuying Villa. Because of Xiaolan's drag, it was not until the afternoon that David and the others arrived at the Shadowless Villa. Seeing David coming, the two guards at the entrance of Wuying Villa hurriedly welcomed David in. Brother Chen. After hearing that David was back, Zhao Chuang hurried out of the hall. He didn't expect David to come back so soon. Zhao Chuang, no one has come over these 2 days. David was afraid that Xuan Yuanyan would not catch him, so he came to Wuying Villa to find trouble. No, there are several aristocratic families who have a good relationship with me in Wuying Mountain Villa and want to come over to pay homage, but I refuse them all. Zhao Chuang said. Well done. You want to send someone outside right now, no one can come in. David instructed Zhao Chuang. Zhao Chuang nodded, and immediately arranged for someone to stand at the gate of Wuying Villa. When Zhao Chuang passed by Xiaolan, he didn't even glance at Xiaolan. It seems that this playboy has really changed a lot after Xiaoru's incident. You must know that Xiaolan's beauty is not bad, coupled with the natural charm, the faint fragrance on her body, a man will look twice when he sees it. Even David himself would look twice when he met Xiaolan for the first time, but at this time Zhao Chuang didn't look sideways, as if he didn't see it. In this way, although this guy Zhao Chuang is relatively weak now, he may be a malleable talent. Zhao Chuang arranged for someone to guard the gate, while David followed Xiaolan directly into the hall. At this moment, Zhao Liguo was lying in the middle of the hall, his face was pale and he could not see a trace of blood. Isn't this all dead? Can the dead be saved? Xiaolan said in surprise. Zhuang Zhao is not dead yet, you don't know, your situation at that time was even worse than Zhuang Zhao. You had suffered severe damage to your internal organs and there was no way to save you. It was Elder Su who gave you the life-sustaining pill. I carry you back to Yaishan Valley, and use Huishan pill to save you. David said. That's why, you saved my life, and I promise you, isn't this just a reward for you, but unfortunately you don't understand the style. Xiaolan joked. When David heard it, he didn't dare to say anything to Xiaolan. Maybe some words of tiger and wolf would come out of Xiaolan's mouth after a while. David stepped forward and held Zhao Liguo's pulse, and a spiritual force was input into Zhao Liguo's body. Zhao Liguo's heart was still beating slightly, and the surrounding of his heart was sealed by a breath. Chapter 900. Opening Zhao Liguo's mouth, David stuffed Huishan pill into it, and then David pressed Zhao Liguo's stomach a little, then Hui Tian pill entered Zhao Liguo's body directly. Soon, Zhao Liguo's pale face had a hint of ruddy, and then he could see the beating of his heart, but Zhao Liguo did not wake up, but his eyes were closed. Zhao Chuang just came in, and seeing his father's change, he jumped up excitedly, feeling his father's breath. Zhao Chuang was very excited. Dad, Dad, wake up quickly and look at me. But no matter how Zhao Chuang shouted, Zhao Liguo didn't respond at all, only the beating of his heart showed that Zhao Liguo was still alive. Brother Chen, my dad. Zhao Chuang looked at David puzzled. After eating Huishan pill, it will take 49 hours to wake up. During this time, you must protect your father. David explained. Thank you, Brother Chen. Zhao Chuang nodded, his face full of gratitude. If Zhao Liguo were to die, then this shadowless villa would also be defeated. With Zhao Chuang's ability, he simply couldn't manage such a large villa. After David told Zhao Chuang a few more words, he took Xiaolan back to the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto. When Zhao Waoqi saw David coming back, he felt a little surprised. He didn't expect David to be so fast. Zhao Waoqi didn't know that David was so fast because of Zhao Liguo. If it wasn't for Zhao Liguo, David would have made the black jade intermittent paste first, and he would come back after helping Lin Tianhu and Chifeng heal. Pavilion Master Zhao, notify all the team members to gather. David said to Zhao Waoqi. Zhao Waoqi nodded, and immediately ordered Su Shimao to gather all the team members in the martial arts field. In front of everyone, David took out dozens of body training pills. Everyone only felt a pungent aroma hit their nostrils, and they all cheered up and watched directly. Mr. Chen, this is... Zhao Wuji asked in a low voice while looking at the body training pill. These are the body training pills. I specially instructed the elders of Yaya Shengu to refine them overnight. After eating the body training pills, everyone's body will be a bit tyrannical. After practicing according to the exercises I taught, I believe that they will soon be able to see the effect. David said lightly. A body training pill refined by the elders of Yaya Shengu. Zhao Waoqi's eyes widened and he looked at David in shock. You must know that the medicinal pills in Yaya Shengu are very expensive, especially the medicinal pills made by the elders themselves, which are even more expensive. Now David brought dozens of medicinal pills all at once. On the market, I am afraid it will cost billions of dollars. Everyone was also very excited about it, and they stretched their necks to look at them. If it wasn't for David, these people would never want to eat these medicine pills from Shengu for the rest of their lives. Mr. Chen, are you really the Valley Master of Medicine God? Su Shimao couldn't help but ask. When David first said that he was the owner of Yaya Shengu Valley, many people were skeptical. After all, David was too young, and although Yaya Shengu mainly focused on refining medicine pills, those elders were all in the realm of Wuzong. How could it be so easy to let such a young guy become the valley owner? If you want to be the Valley Master of Medicine God, unless you have particularly superb medical skills and alchemy skills, it is difficult to become the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley alone. You little BA5TARD, Mr. Chen brought all the medicinal pills, and you still doubt what Mr. Chen said, don't you want this body training pill? Zhao Waoqi kicked Su Shimao's A55 fiercely and said. Su Shimao jumped and quickly apologized to David, Mr. Chen, I didn't mean that, how dare I doubt you, I am.